A car feels like freedom the moment you get the keys. A clean start, a private space, a sense of control. No waiting, no dependence, no restrictions, just movement on your terms. And in that moment, it feels like a smart decision. But ownership does not reveal its full cost immediately. It unfolds slowly, not in one big expense, but in small, repeated ones. Because the price of a car is not just what you pay up front. It is the entry point into an ongoing system. A system that runs quietly in the background. Fuel becomes part of your routine. Insurance becomes a fixed obligation. Maintenance becomes a recurring event. Repairs arrive without warning. Registration returns again and again. Parking turns into a daily cost, sometimes in money, sometimes in time. Individually, none of these feel overwhelming. Each one seems manageable, almost insignificant. But together, they create a continuous outflow, a steady drain that rarely pauses. And this is where something subtle happens. Most people anchor their thinking to the purchase price. They remember what they paid to get the car, but they rarely calculate what it costs to keep it. The upfront cost feels like the decision. The ongoing cost feels like normal life. So the true expense stays hidden. Then there is another process happening at the same time. One that is even less visible. The car is losing value. Every day, even when parked, even when unused. Depreciation does not send notifications. It does not demand attention. It simply reduces what your money has turned into. So now two things are happening together. You are continuously paying to maintain the car, while the car itself is continuously worth less. That combination is what makes ownership expensive in a way that is hard to feel. Because nothing dramatic happens, only gradual change. But money is not the only resource being affected. Time enters the system too. Traffic becomes part of daily life. Commuting becomes routine. Parking becomes a repeated search. Maintenance becomes something you have to schedule around. Slowly, your time starts to reorganize around the car. Minutes disappear first, then hours, then entire days across a year. And most of that time does not feel valuable. It feels consumed. Then behavior begins to shift. Owning a car changes how you make decisions. Trips become easier. Distances feel shorter. Costs feel less visible. So usage increases. You drive more. You spend more on fuel. You create more wear, which leads to more maintenance, which leads to more cost. Convenience removes friction. And when friction disappears, consumption rises. That is the hidden loop. The car gives you freedom to move, but it also creates dependence on spending to maintain that movement. And that dependence does not stay fixed. It grows, especially as income increases. Because when people earn more, they rarely keep the same car. They upgrade. A better model, more features, higher comfort, higher status, which leads to higher payments, higher insurance, higher expectations. So instead of stabilizing costs, income growth often expands them. Lifestyle adjusts upward, quietly, automatically, and not always in a way that strengthens long-term finances. At the same time, something else is overlooked. Opportunity cost. The same money used for the car could exist somewhere else. It could sit in savings. It could be invested. It could reduce future pressure. But instead, it is redirected into maintaining mobility. Again and again. Now, none of this means cars are a bad decision. Cars solve real problems. They save time in certain situations. They provide access where systems are limited. They enable work, family, and opportunity. The issue is not ownership. The issue is imbalance. when the cost structure becomes larger than the value it provides. Then there is financing. Because many people do not buy cars outright. They finance them, which adds another layer. Interest. Now the car is not just losing value. It is also costing extra over time. Monthly payments make this feel manageable because the cost is spread out. Predictable, structured, but over years, those payments accumulate into a much larger number. And because nothing spikes dramatically, it feels safe, even when it is expensive. Then comes the psychological layer. Cars are not just functional assets. They are emotional ones. They represent independence, identity, status, achievement. So decisions are not purely logical. They are emotional. People do not say, "I need the most efficient option." They say, "I want something better," or "I deserve this." And that changes everything. Because the spending limit moves, not based on necessity, but on perception. Once the car enters your life, everything adapts around it. Insurance adjusts to it. Fuel usage adjusts to it. Your routine adjusts to it. Your expectations adjust to it. The entire system reorganizes. Even if the cost is high, even if the value is questionable. And after a while, it feels normal. That is the most powerful part. The system does not feel like a system anymore. It feels like life. But here is the key insight. The problem is not the car itself. The problem is the gap between what it costs and what it returns. For some people, a car increases income, improves efficiency, creates opportunity. For others, it reduces flexibility, limits savings, adds pressure. Same object, different outcome, because the result depends on usage, income stability, and financial awareness. And that leads to a deeper idea. Wealth is not just about how much you earn. It is about how much space exists between income and obligations. Cars often reduce that space because they introduce fixed costs and unpredictable ones. Together and over time, that reduction becomes invisible until you imagine something different. A system where mobility costs less, where time is less fragmented, where cash flow is not constantly tied to maintaining one asset. That is when perspective changes. So the real question is not, is owning a car good or bad? The real question is your car creating freedom or quietly converting your income into a system you have to keep feeding? Because in the end, the difference is not in the car. It is in what it costs you over time.